Hi, I'm Deb Severson, and you're listening to Transformation Radio. In this segment of the Cycle of Transformation, we'll explore transforming employee engagement through coaching. And in just a few moments, you'll have the opportunity to listen to me coach a young professional who recently left her role with a company and began a new role in a new organization. Her name is Anne. But before you have an opportunity to listen to me coaching Anne, I want to just frame up this whole topic of employee engagement. Like, what is it? Well, I think of it in the most simple of terms. When we're engaged at work, it's because we're doing work that we love to do. We have a sense of belonging. There's a way that we really love the work we're contributing to. So that just creates a passion and a sense of enthusiasm in what we're doing every day. We're happy to get out of bed and go into the office or into the field or wherever it is we might be going for work. When there's disengagement, we actually know that the contribution is less. People aren't giving the best of themselves into the workplace, and therefore the end result is going to be impacted because of that lack of engagement. So why is this happening? I mean, what's creating it? There's obviously a lot of variables, but in some of the research that I listen to, and I'm a big fan of Blessing White and the Gallup organization in terms of the research and the statistics they have out on employee engagement, what I am going to focus on is three kind of key elements. The first is the notion that 89% of employers hold that employees quit because of money. And the truth couldn't be more different. 12% of those surveyed said they leave for financial reasons, and 75% are believed to leave because of their boss. So the relationship that we have with each other, the connection and the trust between the manager and the employee is a key driver of engagement, and it directly impacts the bottom line. So here's one area we've got to figure out how to focus on and how to create something that's sustainable. The second area that I want to highlight for you this morning is that 40% of surveyed employees were unaware of the big picture or the vision, strategy, and tactics of the organization. Now, unawareness is one piece. How can we certainly be connected to the vision and the purpose of the company if we don't know what it is? I would even go farther and say that where we really get alignment is when the individual knows what's important to them, their values, their vision, their purpose, what they're here to do in terms of having an impact on the world, and that aligns with the organization. So when those things come together, it's magic. The last data point, 47% of highly engaged team members receive feedback at least once a week. That means half of the employees that are engaged in the workplace, almost half of them, are receiving regular feedback. So this whole idea of connected conversations about things that really matter is really key in terms of this whole topic of employee engagement and how we move people to that place where they feel like they're playing a meaningful part in the work that's being done. So 3 things to remember about employee engagement. First, we have to focus on strong connected relationships between managers and employees. Secondly, it's important to figure out a strategy to align individual values, vision, and purpose with the organization's values, vision, and purpose. When that happens, we've hit a home run. And then lastly, it's critical that we practice the art of effective coaching and feedback. So I'm going to go ahead and start moving us into our coaching segment of this segment. And you'll have an opportunity to listen to me coaching Anne on what is it that creates engagement for her at work. And I'm excited to get a chance to coach you today, and thank you for volunteering.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
And so I want to just start by, I know you just recently moved to this new role. Mm-hmm. Tell me a bit about what drew you into this position.
Well, when I left my previous company, I sat down and thought about some of the things that I felt would be important. And this company is very focused on a team. And, I thought, well, we'll see. because a lot of companies will talk about the team and may not necessarily really walk the talk. But when I got into this company and I've had a chance to see them, it's very team focused. Mm-hmm. They want you to win.
Yeah. And for you in the past have found you were more successful in roles where there was a lot of teamwork is such a almost overused word, right? But
mm-hmm.
But really that sense of collaboration and partnership and working together.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, working together and knowing that you've got someone you can go to if you have questions without feeling like I should know it all. Knowing that you've got someone who can help support you in a tough situation and who you can help too.
Yeah, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you know that this was going to align with that value, I'm going to call it, around team that you have?
It was interesting. When I interviewed for the position, I spoke with one of their executives here in Denver, and they talked about teamwork. So when I went to the next interview, I asked for some very specific examples of, tell me how the teamwork really works here, and can you give me some examples of when you've seen success with it? Mm-hmm. And everybody that I talked to, even just in the halls, everybody says the same thing. Mm-hmm. We work as a team, we work as a team, we work as a team. And I've now experienced that they do work as a team. They're all there to help you win.
That's great.
And I had 2 younger people help me today that one's only been there 3 or 4 months, but he's already showing me the things that he's learned. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great, because usually the newbies is like, okay, we're going to, step away from them and let them try and figure it out. And he pretty much put his arms around me and said, here we go. It was great.
Oh, that's nice.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go for just a minute, this whole idea of team. Like, I'm sure you've experienced in past roles or organizations where you felt like there wasn't a sense of team. Yeah. Is that right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
What are some examples of when that wasn't present? Like, without naming names, but like, what did that look like?
Well, there's a couple very specific situations. One where I needed coverage for a team member. A manager was out of the office unexpectedly due to health reasons. And normally in a team or partner kind of environment, you can tap the other manager on the shoulder and say, hey, we need a little help over here. And it's a collective, yeah, sure, I'll help you. No problem at all. And I ended up having to do my role and that manager's role, and with no support, nothing at all. And, for a couple days, it's not a big deal. But when you're going on a couple months, mm-hmm. it's very challenging to maintain the level of performance that you expect. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have any help in getting that done. There was a situation where we had a sales contest. And I had put a big project together, and I was so excited to share it with everybody. Took it to the team, shared it with everybody, and next thing I knew, everybody had scattered to their own corners of where they were working, and I was hoping to get some feedback and find some best practices and things that were working, and my ideas were working great, but we didn't seem to ever come back together to really talk about how we could support each other and be even that much better.
Got it. What do you suspect contributes to that kind of environment? And looking back
on the environment of
where there's not that camaraderie, there's not that willingness to really step in and help out when the going gets tough.
Honestly, I just felt that they were in it for themselves, mm-hmm. and they wanted to win at whatever cost. Mm-hmm. I really struggled with that because that's not how I am. Mm-hmm. And so I'm there and I want to give ideas and share and help them be successful too.
Absolutely.
And when it came back, there wasn't anything that ever came back. It was just take and they'd go, and no fostering of any kind of collaborative communication with the group.
And I'm going to press just a little bit more because I think it's going to be important for you to keep listening for, where is the risk in this other situation. in your mind, was that more an environment of like the culture? Was there something that drove the culture to be more individualistic versus collaborative and focused on team?
Yes, there was. And while there were reports that would show, different rankings of where you were on the report and different things like that, I think there's a way to have some friendly competition and still bring everyone together. Mm-hmm. When you get into a culture where it's, okay, if you're not in the top 3, and what are you doing? Mm-hmm. And why aren't you up where Bob is? And then all of a sudden it's different because now I want to be in the top 3. And if I have to get there by whatever means, I'm going to get there.
Right.
And that's, I'm not going to worry about anybody else because that's what management is looking for.
Right.
So.
Yeah, so there's a way that it's possible. I mean, one of the contributing factors could have been even the way that compensation was, or so individuals felt like they had to really win. It was more winning on their own versus winning as a group. Mm-hmm. So now I'm going to flip forward into the future as you look into this new company, this new role. I'm guessing there's some kind of requirement or need to deliver individually, mm-hmm. performance-wise.
Sure.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So how, in your mind, how is it? Is it different because of people are valued for their collective contribution? I'm just curious, like mm-hmm. Where is it different?
It is different at the management level because when I had first gone into the role, when I'd first interviewed for the role, they had talked about, we have to get so many, they're called PCs, production credits. And it was very nerve-wracking thinking, gosh, is that something that I can even do? That's not what I've ever done before.
Right.
This is a whole new ball of wax. And so I'm listening to them talking, and they said, Anne, you look a little concerned. And I said, I am concerned. I don't know what that really means with this production piece. And they said, well, let's just make it very clear for you. We value everybody. And we know that some people have other strengths versus other people. Some have weaknesses or challenges different than other people. He goes, so we get people in and we see what their natural talents and skills are. And while, yes, if you're in this role, you're required to produce at this level, but that doesn't mean that that's the end-all, be-all. There are so many opportunities for training and support from senior management. And he just went on to list all of the things. And then as I spoke with some of the other folks on staff, they said they'd actually encountered it. And it was real. It was like alive.
Wow, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
So for you, is your thinking about what you need to feel like, so there's kind of two sides to this. There's the things that you're going to need to feel that camaraderie and that teamwork and that sort of giving of each other's talents, lending support are alive and well, right?
Mm-hmm.
As you think about that. And then there's the things that would be triggers or things that you might worry about related to teamwork, right? So two sides of the coin.
Right.
So I want you to first think about what will you contribute that you personally, that aligns with that value and vision, that teamwork that you're seeing that's present?
Well, the one thing just off the top of my head that I think is relevant is that I care about other people. Mm-hmm. And I care about the people across from me, whether it's, my business partner or a friend or a potential client or whatever it is. And seeing people who look at their situation the same way helps me, I think, to be a better me, mm-hmm. in the sense that I'm not the only one that's worried about everybody else. Mm-hmm. These folks are too. And so that takes some stress off of me, mm-hmm. to know that, okay, if I don't catch it, it's okay, because I know that right. If they catch it, we're all okay together.
So one of the things that, and I know and I can tell by listening to you, is that it's not just the team piece and the collaboration piece, but it's also the caring and connection kind of with other people piece.
Mm-hmm.
So there's also the people part of this in your values. What if there's, at some point, I mean, there's probably someone in the company that may let you down related to this, right? They may not care in the way that you would like or offer support in the way that you would like. Like, what's your thinking about how you can either address that before it happens or...
That's a good question. Let's see. I already have a good rapport built with all of the managers. And even before I accepted their invitation to come work there, we had some really good conversations around communicating what it means to each of us. So, for example, Anne, if I don't call you right back when you message me or text me, if I don't get back to you in 24 hours, know that it's not because of you. It's because I've been tied up in something, and if you need me right away, this is how we should do it. So we really defined some levels of communication so that I wouldn't get in that little mindset of, what did I do?
Yes.
And
That's
now
great.
I don't have to worry about that piece.
That's great. And so in your mind, you've got, it's almost back to, you've got some agreements with them around how you'll communicate with each other, how you operate with each other.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Yeah.
Now, is that something that you'll continue to explore with them, or was that like a one-time conversation? What are you thinking?
That's a really good question, because I don't really want to ever assume that just because we've talked about it once means that everybody's on the same page. The way I work is if I feel that there's any conflict or issue or anything, I'll just go over and talk to them and ask them. Now, I didn't used to do that before. I would just let it, kind of fester. But I've found that 9 times out of 10, if I would just go over and ask, everything okay? I'm trying to get this information, whatever it is, that it wasn't me.
Yeah.
And that made me feel better just by taking that step.
Mm-hmm. What's so great about this role, from what you're telling me, is that you really have a sense that you belong there, because there's, at least right now, there's this ideal that they hold almost in terms of how they treat each other and the way that they work together. And so it feels like such a good fit for you. Mm-hmm. And so the place that I'm pointing you as we keep talking about it is, what if at some point you become disillusioned? What will you do? And as you said, you'll just go ahead and address it. Mm-hmm. The other thing, I think, in the weeks ahead, as you're moving into this new culture, it might be helpful for you to keep really observing and almost keeping, you know where I'm going here. Because you do have, you're in a little bit of the honeymoon phase, right? Mm-hmm.
That's true.
It is, right? I mean, everything's wonderful, and we know that, we're just also human. So I'm just wondering, what are some of the things, as observer over the next few weeks of this culture, what are some of the things that will be important for you to, pay attention to in yourself or in others?
For me, it will be being true to myself. Mm-hmm. And in my previous world, I found that I kind of became somebody different at work. And when I ended up leaving that organization, I had to take some time to figure out who I even was, because I felt like I had to be a certain way. So one of the things for me then, I think, is just taking a little check periodically to say, is this me? Mm-hmm. And does this fit what I'm really wanting to be?
Yeah.
And is it aligning? Mm-hmm. And then really watching the interactions of the other folks there at the office. We've had 4 or 5 meetings, and every time things have been consistent. So it'll be interesting to see how those messages play out through the year. But I think that's a really good point, to just observe and not necessarily react. I mean, I don't want to react.
Right. That's right.
And that's a really, really good point, is the observation piece can really help me figure out where I need to go before I do something.
And one of the things I mentioned a minute ago is that for you, values that you hold really dear: team, collaboration, caring and connection with people. What are some of the other ones that I might be missing that are top of the list for you?
Honesty and integrity. Mm-hmm. That's a really big thing for me, and sometimes I find I am always very hard on myself. Mm-hmm. And if I miss one thing, I take it really, really hard. But then I also hold other people that way too. Right. And so I need to know that people do things for their own reasons. Sometimes we can't explain it or we won't understand. Mm-hmm. And being in this role too, while it's a change, I'm out of management and I'm more of the doer. Uh-huh. And I'm finding it very interesting because I was in management for so long that I don't have to worry about a lot of these things, and I can just stay focused on what I need to worry about and not what everybody else needs to worry about too.
Right. Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
So again, as you're clearer about these are the things that are authentically important to me, and you, as you said, you want to be able to be the same when you're at work and really sort of live into that. Mm-hmm. If you're the observer and you're observing these pieces, I guess I'm just wondering, how would you go about it? I see you're taking notes, so would it be you jot down examples of when those values are being met, or more when they're not being met, or maybe not either of those two things?
No, actually today there was a point when these two fellows helped me. Mm-hmm. And we have what's called the Code of the West. Uh-huh. And we went through it this morning. So afterwards, when I had a chance to just catch them one-on-one, I thanked them for living up to the code.
Nice.
And they said, And then because there's 10 different codes that comprise the Code of the West for my organization. And I said, yes, when you did A, B, and C, that fulfilled the Code of the West, and this is what it meant to me. Mm-hmm. And you really helped me and propelled me forward and all of that. And they felt so good. You could just see it in their face. It was like, wow, somebody said thank you. This is really cool. So I think that can be part of what I help foster.
Yeah, that's really great. One of the things I think that's great about what you just did too is you are seeing examples of where your values are connecting with the Code of the West, right? The companies. Mm-hmm. And by just even acknowledging it and verbalizing it, it's deepening that experience for you, mm-hmm. right? You're feeling more aligned, and at the same time, you're also helping them as well.
Right.
So perhaps that acknowledgement of what you did today is a really good strategy for you to continue to look for, where am I aligned and where am I connected?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think having those little catches mm-hmm. and just noticing when that is will keep me really attuned and tied into it. Yeah. So I don't feel like I kind of separating myself.
Yes.
That will keep me.
And on the inverse, what's going to be really important is if you feel disconnected at any point in time, it's going to be that curious, going in and asking yourself, what's causing this? Mm-hmm. Which of these values is not lining up for me, and why am I feeling that way? Right. Sooner than later, so that you can do something about it.
Oh, I really like that, because so often we want to go out and say, what are they doing wrong? Mm-hmm. But that is such a good idea, because if I can figure out here first and remain true to myself, mm-hmm. then that's going to have that longevity, and I'll still feel good about me.
Yeah, that's great. Well, it's interesting, because I think sometimes we do assume it's them, which is your point, right? Mm-hmm. It's them. They're not in alignment. When in fact, sometimes it can be me that's just taking something personally, or who knows.
Yeah,
true. Nice. So
great.
Anything else for you in terms of, as you start down this path of staying aligned and engaged at work?
Well, it's nice to be excited for Mondays again. Mm-hmm. So, that's neat. The fact that I get to help people, which is probably my number one thing. Mm-hmm. I thought it had to be in one distinct industry, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
And so I had to understand that about myself, that really it's about helping other people, honesty, integrity, being team partner, and that matters to me.
Yeah, that's great. And I think just as we cap this off, it really reminds me that if we know ourselves and we know who we are and what we need and what we have to offer, we're so much more likely to be able to go out there and make that connection into the organization. So a big piece of it's on us, and then certainly a piece of it is on the organization reaching out a hand to understand who we are too.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, nice.
Yep, that's great.
Thanks, Anne.
All right, thank you.